Hello to all the parents. We are happy to be back with you again today. And this is for episode 12 of Walk the Talk. And we are talking about consistency. Yes, that wonderful little C word that everyone seems to be struggling with because there are just too many things to consider every day. So how do we get to be more consistent in everything that we try and build into our home lives and into our children's lives? How can we become more consistent in everything that we do, because we know consistency pays off in ways that few other things can. So we are going to take that discussion a little bit further today. We spoke about what that might look like in terms of meal times and bedtimes, and today we want to talk about discipline, the need for consistency in discipline and what the wonderful results of that might be. And we're also going to look at how that a practical application of that being household rules. Everything working together fairly nicely there. So welcome, Isla. Nice to be able to chatting to you again today. And we are going to talk about consistency and discipline first. So love to hear from you, your take on that.
So, well, as we were mentioning before we got started here, it looks so different with younger kids and older kids. And
Yes.
this whole concept of discipline in the older kids is really that you have to remember that the brain is changing. You've got a different child in the teenage years than you had in that kind of 0 to 8 or 0 to 10 time. So when you were more enforcing rules and your discipline was more authoritarian, let's say, becomes much more difficult to be able to do that in the teenage years. And what's really required there is more, I think, a setting of boundaries and rules that go around those kind of boundaries, so that you're very clear with your child. It's almost like you're setting up those contracts that say, this is how we do it in our home and in our family. And your consistency then goes along with, you've already established the contract, so to speak, of how things are going to work. And that's where the discipline comes in and the consistency comes in, is just holding fast on those rules, those boundaries you've created, and then flexing them when it makes sense, and flexing them with everybody's understanding of why that's happening, as opposed to you just abandoning the consistency because it's so hard. And it is hard. So yeah, I think is different in the world of the little ones.
Yes, I think something that is very important for parents to get across in order to get the consistency and discipline working together is to make children understand when they're so little, they don't think any further than what is immediately happening in front of them, and to help them understand there's a consequence to every action. That is really important before you can start working on the consistency and the discipline, is because they need to understand, okay, if I do listen to what mommy says, then this is going to be the result. And if I don't listen, then that's going to be the result. And then it's up to the parent to consistently reinforce that, because that is how discipline is then built into their daily routine. Because they know, okay, I can't do that thing, I have to do that thing, and this is why, because it brings a more desirable result. So I think for them, for the little ones, it's fairly simple, although I find that the even greater need than just understanding the consequence is to then provide that boundary line of within which they can feel secure about what it is that they need to do, the kind of result it will bring, so the consequence becomes clearer. And if this happens every single day, that provides me with this very safe space within which I can operate and not feel unsure of myself or scared about what the consequences might be. And this is why consistency is such a key thing that a lot of people struggle with, because it's difficult to keep reinforcing the same things every single day, especially at that young age where things can so quickly unravel, despite your best efforts to stick to a certain plan. But I think once that is established, once that becomes a thing in the household, it's easier to then take it further for the older kids.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think in my experience, when you're having to kind of set up rules and boundaries and you're doing things in the teenage years because the relationship is not where you want it to be. The relationship is breaking down and where the connection isn't there. And you realize that you have not had the consistency from the younger years through to the teenage years. It's so hard to start from scratch because you're not used to it. Your kid isn't used to it. And you're putting things in place that your teenager is automatically going to start working against because it's not familiar in any way. So I think the importance of developing the consistency in the younger years so that maybe you don't have to work so hard. Well, it's different anyway in the teenage years, but there's that understanding between you and your child of, we know what the rules are. We know what the expectations are. We've been doing this for a long time. Really helps keep the environment a lot less stressed.
And so what you say, that consistency actually enables you to create a much greater connection with your child because they know what to expect. They know how far they can go. They know what they have in you because they've consistently seen that you are there to guide and lead and support and everything along the way. So it's very, very important point that you just made. Consistency really does enable you to have build a much greater connection that is obviously going to benefit you for the rest of your lives together. Yeah, that's amazing. That's very awesome what you just said.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. I think, I mean, the consistency as well, again, I think no matter what age, even my adult children, they know what to expect from me because they've lived with me for all these years. And we've built a relationship that has the consistency of me showing up as me. They know who I am. They know they can rely on me and I can rely on them. I know exactly what that relationship looks like. And I think that's what we're building for the future as well. We're building it so it's working for our kids, but it's also working for us. You know, we can't walk around on eggshells. It's so damaging to our own mental and emotional health and well-being.
Yeah, it really is. And just that privilege, and this is something that I often say, just remember your relationship with your child is unlike any relationship I'll ever have with anybody else. You have the gift of being there from day one. What you build in is what's going to stick, whether it's good or bad. And for us to just understand what an incredible gift this is, and if I do it correctly, it is going to bear fruit for the rest of our lives. You know, it's never lose sight of that little fact, even on the hard days, on the days that you really don't feel that you have what it takes today to consistently be that force for good. Just remember that, because I think it's once we reach that level of understanding, it becomes a lot harder to be consistent about anything. Yeah, just understanding that if I can just get myself to do this every day, it's going to pay off in ways that I can't even imagine yet. That's a very important thing to mention.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, so should we go to our second one that we wanted to cover today?
Yes, let's do that. So the other one was household rules. And again, this is about speaking about the discipline. We said that how does that actually work in household rules? And I think it's quite simple, really. If you are able to stick to what you mentioned, these are the boundaries, this is what's required, this is how we both need to show up in this moment. I think it makes any kind of rule setting so much easier. Yeah.
Yeah. I think household rules are, I mean, again, my view is that what my encouragement for parents today, and I didn't see it at the time that I was raising my kids. So this is hindsight being
A
brilliant.
beautiful thing. It's a beautiful
Exactly.
thing.
Is have your eye on age 18. There is a deadline, in my view. It's not the deadline on your relationship, it's the deadline on your ability to consistently parent towards making sure that your child is going to reach that milestone with confidence and enough consistency and skills that they're able to take life forward by themselves with your help, but you've always got to have your eye on that. So I think a lot of what happens in the teenage years, or I think what should be happening in the teenage years, is that you have around the household rules, and you have in your mind, how am I going to make sure that if my kid is off in a dorm or in an apartment at 18, can they take care of themselves? How have I built in the household rules and the rules of being a family, what it takes to be a team that supports each other, that makes sure that the family is doing well? I've got to be building that in from a much younger age to be sure that once this 18 is reached, that my kid knows how to do their laundry, clean up their room, cook for themselves, take care of anything, of their car, anything, that you already have all of those things in place. And to me, that shows up around developing household rules that are building competencies in your child and at the same time contributing to the well-being of the family.
Wonderful. I couldn't agree more. And this is something that the sooner you start, the sooner you are going to benefit from it, and your child's going to benefit from it. Because if it's something that they've learned consistently from the start, and as their age and their skills keep increasing, they are just learning more intricate ways of how this actually builds into the person that you are, the environment you want to create for yourself, considering the people around you, respect, all those wonderful things that, as you said, by the time that they are ready to leave the home, they've got to be very, very clear about exactly what that looks like and how you build that in, because the stage has been set for them. And if you do it properly, they are going to make a success of whatever is next. And I think that brings us as parents all the peace of mind that we need to know that we have really raised someone who is going to be capable of dealing with this life, whatever it brings their way, in the best possible ways, based on who they are, with all the necessary love and support that will help them, continue to help them through it, whatever it looks like. That is our incredible, this is the wonderful privilege about the time we have together right from the start. And we must just never lose sight of that, because then I think everything else that we talk about becomes so much easier, because you recognize the importance of every moment and the gift that it can bring. Yeah.
Yeah,
Amazing.
and that is so hard, you know.
Of course. That's what we're talking about. This is why everyone struggles at times.
Exactly,
Yes.
because you know that moment of you're exhausted, you've asked your 14-year-old to clean their room 10 times in the last 24 hours, and then it was 10 times in the previous 24. I mean, it is exhausting. It's exhausting. But I think, again, eye on the future and what you want for your child helps. And then being able to kind of pause so that you don't allow yourself to get emotionally inflamed or by the whole thing, but that you have your eye on, I know where we're going, and therefore it's worth being consistent about this because it is going to pay off.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. So on those days that you don't feel strong enough to just do this thing, remember this conversation, please, because this is really what it's about. There's nothing wrong with you for not having the energy to do that today. All go through those times. So let's all keep our eyes on the goal and know that it will pay off in ways you can't even think yet. It's going to be amazing, but it's going to be so much more amazing than you know if you just keep at it. So thank you that we are able to share these little gems with you. And we would love to hear more from you about how, if you are managing to do this already, what is your strategy? How do you get yourself through these difficult days? Or if you see that your child is lacking this consistency, ways in which you have found really helps. Or if you would like us to give you some more tips and strategies on how you can enforce this in your home, please reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you, Isla.
Thank
so
you.
valuable to talk to you.
Yep.
I hope you can have a fantastic week.
Thank you. And you too.
Thank you.
Take
Bye.